A few thoughts leading into the fourth test at Old Trafford. It's quite good to see Harry Brook talking about the fact that England are going to be no more nice guys anymore. Of course, they've shown a bit of that in that third test match when they fronted up to the Indians, and there was one or two little sort of verbal spats, but nothing personal. No contravening of the spirit of cricket, but it just showed the passion, I think, that all the teams or both teams were exuding in that game. And actually, that's one of the things I think that distinguishes Test cricket from other forms of the game. Really, is the passion and emotion that it arouses in teams when things boil up like they did at Lords. And actually, England admitted that they've been getting some help from Gilbert Anoka, the sort of guru behind the All Blacks, the guy who recommended the no dickheads policy, and he's been just chatting to England about their mental approach and the fact that you will just get into the occasional sort of verbal battle with the opposition. It just kind of undermines them. It doesn't have to be personal or abusive. It just has to be just like pricking the skin a little bit. Of course, the Aussies were absolutely brilliant at that, and Harry Brook and others have revelled in the opportunity to be a bit more spiky on the field perhaps than they have been in the past. And well, it's great to see, I think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it as long as it doesn't actually come to sort of physical contact. A little bit of verbal abuse on the field or verbal comment on the field to each other is something that actually is quite entertaining to watch, and we can hear quite a bit of it on stump mics now as well. So they're not going to actually contravene any kind of protocols or anything. So by the way, a nice story that arose about Harry Brook, just to give you a sense of the sort of guy he is a story from a follower, a listener to this podcast, to the Analyst podcast, called David Main. He wrote to me last year and he said, yeah, here's a great story. We were having a few problems with our bats in our club team, and I taught my son, aged 13, to mend them, to fix a few broken bats, and he did a really good job. So I said to him, well, why don't you put a little letter or a notice up on the notice board of the club and see if anybody else wants their bats repaired. So he went one better than that, this 13-year-old, and he actually posted something on Instagram. Anybody who wants their bats repaired, give us a call. The phone went the next day. The dad answered. Who is this? Somebody wanting bats repaired. I got 6 bats to be repaired, he said. And he said, well, who is this? And he said, it's Harry Brook. And the dad, David Main, he thought it was a wind-up, but he checked, and it was Harry Brook. And sure enough, the next day, Harry Brook came round to their house at 7 in the morning with 6 bats, and he talked them through each one. He said, well, this one's my favourite test bat. I really want a really good job on this. Will you repair it? 25 quid a go kind of thing. And sure enough, after a few days, the lad repaired all his bats, given them back to him. He was very happy, as you can see from this picture. And I asked Harry later in the summer, actually last year, are you still using those bats that the kid repaired? He said, yeah, absolutely. He did a brilliant job, he said, fantastic. And he still is using them now. So it's a lovely story just to show that Harry Brook is just such a lovely, wonderful club guy. He's a salt of the earth type, and anything that he says, I reckon is gospel. I just think he's a fantastic bloke. He's going to be, of course, at the forefront of England in this next Test match. He hasn't delivered in that last game, but maybe in the next Test match he'll come up with something special. And Betfair have revealed a couple of things. 5-2 that Zach Crawley will get a 50. Well, that's not a bad gamble actually, because of course he did make that big 100 against Australia at Old Trafford a couple of years ago, and I quite like this one. Liam Dawson 4-1 to be England's leading first innings wicket bowler. Liam Dawson, of course, in the side for Shoaib Bashir, has done so much great work in Hampshire colours for ages now, and he's such a deserving recipient of this opportunity. I felt for a long time actually that Bashir wasn't quite up to it, and he was trying to learn his trade at international level, which is so difficult. Liam Dawson, a trusted operator, a bit lower slung than Bashir, of course, but actually that might be a good thing, because Bashir's natural bounce is going to take the ball over the stumps, so LBW are going to be harder for him to get, whereas Dawson skids it in lower from 5'8", and he might get those LBWs, the ball skidding into the pads, batsman playing for the spin, and there isn't any kind of thing. It hasn't turned that much at Old Trafford for a while, so he could be invaluable. The fact that he is slightly lower, slightly shorter than Bashir, which is something that England invested in initially, thinking the bounce that Bashir would get would be great for Australia, but maybe on a pitch like Old Trafford, where you actually want to try and get LBWs by pitching the ball and hitting the pads, maybe Dawson will come into his own and take those wickets. We'll see anyway. Don't forget our special 6-part series looking back at the 2005 Ashes as well. It's up now. The introductory episode is on our Analyst podcast feed. And episode 2 about the Lord's Test of 2005 is on Crickverse, on the Crickverse on Substack. Subscriber only, but you'll get a free preview of that video as well. Me and Simon Mann talking about the 2005 Lord's Test match, along with Michael Vaughan, Justin Langer, Adam Gilchrist, Glenn McGrath, Andrew Strauss, and very good Simon Jones actually. So check that out on the Crickverse. If you Google that, it'll come up and you can join us and be part of the cricketing conversation. I'm doing the daily diary on that site as well, so look out for that, the Crickverse.